Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into this show today. Now, today's episode, we're talking about the bane of all bonus hunters' existence, and that is the dreaded direct deposit. So, we'll talk about, what actually counts as a direct deposit, but more importantly, we'll talk about some potential ways you can get around it and spoof direct deposits. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, when it comes to it, I'm sure you're very familiar. Most bonuses break down into either just deposit money for a certain amount of time or make direct deposits, especially with personal checking accounts. You see that a lot. The reason being is obviously the bank or the issuer, they want you to get used to using the account, number one. And number two, it's one other roadblock that they can throw up. You switch your direct deposit, you might forget to switch it back. And there you go. Now, it's pretty easy because your money has to go somewhere from your employer, right? But, we can either be limited on how many direct deposits we have. Sometimes people can't change their direct deposit easily, or they can't split it up. Or many of you are self-employed, don't really have a legitimate W-2 direct deposit. So what technically counts as a direct deposit? Well, the most obvious example is going to be money from your employer, right? W-2 income, Social Security benefits, unemployment, things like that. Those all generally count as what's listed in the terms and conditions. Now, what's not supposed to count is ACH payments or peer-to-peer payments. Bank transfer. So if you went, Bank of America, your Bank of America account, ACH $200 to your PNC account to satisfy direct deposit requirement, that's not supposed to count. Similarly, if you send money from a Venmo or Zelle or PayPal to yourself, that's also not supposed to count. That's peer-to-peer. Now, there's a few different ways that you can kind of spoof these, if you will, and the first one is pretty easy, and despite we just said what doesn't count, sometimes it's simply not true. So sometimes what a bank writes down is not going to count isn't actually coded for on the back end. So you can sometimes with bank accounts actually just do a simple ACH and it will work. Now it's hard to know for sure until you actually do it. So the best way to know what works and doesn't work for any of these examples is going to be crowdsourced data, number one. That's basically joining the Doctor of Credits community, talking about here what works, what doesn't work in the comments, or if you go down below these videos and press the join button, you can join our Discord between both channels, this one and the credit card channel, where we discuss things just like this, share data points, things like that, plus referral links. That'll be the easiest one. But again, they always say be the data points you want to see. I don't really like that example. I like to make someone else do it. But sometimes ACH and stuff like that can work. Now, another one that I've tried in the past that could potentially work is business accounts. So if you have a business checking account, Novo, American Express, you name it, you can send money to other accounts, but you don't want to send it like an ACH. What you want to do is send it as if you're a business paying a vendor or an invoice. So there'll be regular ACH, and then there'll be like, bill pay or something like that. You want to add it in there. You can add the account number and routing number. Normally, you don't even have to do micro deposits to verify that you just enter in the number and then you'll send it, and it can potentially show up differently. I've done this to SECU, and I didn't have enough time to do a direct deposit from American Express business checking. So if you've done it under a legitimate business name, it will usually show up as that business names like Profitable Content LLC. And you can type something in the description field like payroll. I don't think necessarily typing payroll in there actually fools the other system. It could potentially give you more grounds to argue if it doesn't work and you want to try to take it up with the bank, adding in a description like that. But sending from business accounts that way can work as well. Another way to do this would be through brokerage accounts. I've seen a lot of folks have success using Fidelity accounts, even Fidelity cash management accounts. I've seen those work because a lot of times those show up as like payment or dividends or earnings or something like that, which would be a form of payment versus just a peer-to-peer payment. So, you can go Schwab account, Fidelity, some of these brokerages. There's another one I've been doing, Nexus. I actually had a bonus for like 5 minutes, so I didn't get to make a video on it, but when I was sending money from Nexus, which is like a checking account, brokerage account combination, I sent it to Chase, and the email that Chase actually sent me was your direct deposit posted, so that leads me to believe it would account, and it shows up as payment. Because another way to tell is you can go in and look at the transaction line and see what it codes as, but just because it says one thing doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to count, which kind of makes it tough to know until you know, again, the crowdsourced data points. Now, another way to do this is through payment processing systems like Wise, for example. So if you go down below, I actually have a referral link for Wise where you can get $600 free for your first transactions. Of course, they charge fees, which we'll talk about in a second. But this referral link, if you sign up, you can get a free transfer of up to $600. I also get something as well, but it's not as great as referrals. I think you actually have to do foreign transactions, which I wouldn't worry about. Just take the free 600 and run. Really what Wise is kind of like a payroll processor for like small businesses, right? But you don't have to be a small business to sign up. It's how you could potentially send payroll to people. So a lot of times folks like to sign up for Wise and then, send payments, again, like you're paying bills or paying payroll to the destination account that they're trying to trigger the direct deposit on. There is a small fee. So first of all, you want to make sure you never go into Wise and to load up your Wise account. You never want to pull money from Bank of America or Chase or whatever, because they'll charge you for that. You want to push the money from Bank of America to Wise. And then when you send the money, I believe there's like a 39-cent charge or something like that. It's nominal considering what you're going to get on earning, the actual bonus. So there is a fee. That's why I put this one last. The others are free to do. So, you can choose this one. There are other payment processing companies out there as well. If you have more experience with those, let me know down below. But Wise is another good one, and it does work for a lot of things because that is, again, what it's intended to do is do, payroll. Now, there's a few other things to talk about here. First of all, I would say if you're going to do it, and you're going to do it through like a Wise or through a business checking account that actually doesn't have your name on it, but has, again, like Profitable Content LLC, which my Amex business account is, you could actually send it. You might do better off sending it for a random amount of money, right? If you wanted to argue with the bank, it could help if it doesn't go. Like if it says make a direct deposit of $200 and you send $200 exactly, it might be pretty easy to know what you're doing. But if you wanted to do it, just send $1,258.17. No, actually, that was my paycheck from this company. That's where I work, whatever. That could be a better argument because, again, you're still trying to spoof the requirements. So going to the bank and complaining if this doesn't work is going to be really tough because you're in the wrong. I have actually asked banks before, like, hey, why didn't I get the bonus for this, just to see what would happen when I tried to spoof a direct deposit, and they actually came back and said, no, it wasn't a direct deposit, but it turns out it was for the system, because again, what the person sees and what's coded on the back end is different usually. The person you're talking to is just customer service rep, not the person who built the thing, right? So there is that trick could potentially work, but again, you don't have much grounds to stand on when you're spoofing things like that. Additional strategy that I've seen people do is just to brute force it and send multiple ACHs or multiple things from multiple places just to see what will work. If you do that, you're really going to know which one did it unless the bonus triggers instantly, like a lot of those fintech ones do. That could be done as well because, you can move the money right back. It's fine. So it wouldn't be a big deal. But again, we covered, really you can click into the line item in the transactions and, you can kind of get a feel for what it might be. It'll say peer-to-peer usually if it's, a transaction that we talked about earlier. A lot of times, it will say payroll if it's from, from an actual payment provider. I've seen things coded as income as well. I've also seen it where you can actually change the category yourself. I don't believe that's actually going to help you too much. Just changing the category. If it's a field that you can manually change, it's probably not going to do what you think it does. Because I don't think they would have built their bonus to trigger off of that. But overall, those are the few different ways that you can trigger direct deposits. And honestly, if you want to hit it enough, I'm sure you can find something. It almost becomes more of a patience game to see what will work and what won't work. Everydatapoint.com is a good site that kind of lists out these data points. It's run by the guy who runs everybankbonus.com. The problem is everydatapoint.com isn't really kept up to date. But also, I don't know how up to date they really have to be. A lot of these banks don't update and change this stuff because I don't believe the majority of people are going to ever try to spoof this stuff, honestly. But, these communities are small, but they are expensive when they do hit you. So that's a resource you can use as well, along with the crowdsourced information there. But overall, I mean, I think with the options we've covered and even going through Wise as a last resort, given the fee, you should be able to spoof more direct deposits than you would think. Again, I would probably just do multiples just to see what would hit and just to try to play it safe. So anyways, guys, that's going to be it for direct deposits. So if you like this one, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you find it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, we're posting content just like this every week on how to make the bank's money become your money. Question for you guys: if you have different strategies, different platforms, let me know down below what you use in the past, what works, what doesn't work, some of your resources and strategies. Love to get your thoughts on that. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. Talk to you very soon in the next one.